Welcome to Smart Parents, Successful Students, the podcast that helps parents like you guide your children toward academic confidence and success. I'm your host, Helen Panos, and I'm here to share expert tips, proven strategies, and inspiring stories that make the journey to school success a little smoother for both you and your student. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Smart Parents, Successful Students podcast. I'm your host, Helen Panos, and today I have a guest with me, and his name is Andy Goldstrom. Welcome to the show, Andy.
Hey, Helen. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining us. Well, Andy is a founder and parent coach of Parents Journey Coaching. He's actually in the Atlanta area. And of course, I'm sure you do things virtually like most of us do, right, Andy?
I do most of my work virtually. Yep. Mostly because that's what clients wanted. I had an office and nobody would come. So
that's funny. Everybody's got, limited time these days. So
and Atlanta's a big place, right?
Yeah.
So you have a central location, it's only so good, right?
Right, that's true. And it's gotten more busy and more traffic. I was noticing that. And here school is barely started, right? And it's getting traffic and it's summer while we record this. So Andy is a parent coach, founder of Parents Journey Coaching. As I mentioned, he helps parents struggling to raise their children. And through his empathetic and engaging approach, he connects well with parents to build confidence and help them enjoy this special but sometimes challenging time in their lives. Yes, it always is challenging and fun. And what age group do you deal with in terms of kids, Andy?
Generally about 10 to about 30, believe it or not.
Oh, okay.
Parents of kids that in that age group.
Kids and adults, right?
Yes, I mean there are adults who have come back home since COVID or struggled to launch, and the parents are struggling with that dynamic and need some support to help the kids have meaningful, independent lives.
Mm-hmm. Well, tell us a little bit about your journey, about what got you to where you are today with your Parents Journey Coaching.
Well, I'll try not to be too long-winded, but it's an interesting story. It's not a typical story. You speak to a therapist or maybe a parent coach, and they basically say, "Oh, out of the womb, I wanted to be a dad, or I wanted to be a mom, and I went to school and had kids early and learned my lumps and, but got degreed and everything I needed to do. And I've been doing this for 40 years and I'm really passionate about it." And there are a lot of people who are like that in this business, and it's great for them. I was not that person. I was the person who was brought up in Connecticut. I've lived in Atlanta for 27 years, but I was brought up in Connecticut. My parents divorced when I was 12, and I got kind of thrown in between the two parties emotionally and financially. And so I always wanted to kind of be it scarred me, basically, as a 12-year-old. So I always wanted to be independent as a result of that. And so after I got finished schooling, I started my own businesses and have pretty much been independent. And in doing so, I never had to rely on others for financial means. And I did well. I grew and sold a company that did really well in the commercial real estate business. I took over for the founder of a waste recycling company and grew that business and sold it. And then as we spoke earlier, I worked for an investment bank also. And I traveled a lot, and my wife was the primary parent. That was kind of our deal. And we had two girls, and our younger girl, when she became a teenager, experienced some severe anxiety and depression, and we didn't know how to handle it. We got her therapists, we got her a psychiatrist, we got her tutors, we got her an IEP. We did everything we could, and it helped, but it was really a Band-Aid. And eventually she ended up going to a psych hospital because she had a breakdown. And we were also nervous about her health because she was taking drugs. She wasn't going to school. And we decided that and determined, we didn't even know that this existed, but we went and found out about wilderness therapy and residential treatment options and actually gave her the gift, which was not an easy decision, of having her go to more advanced therapy for a year away from us. And it was hard. It was a very hard decision, an expensive decision, an emotional decision. We had exhausted and tried everything. And she was away for a year, basically, and matured, learned new skills, allowed us to heal. And we put in our work. We actually weren't just trying to fix our kid. We needed to fix ourselves. And my wife and I invested in parent coaching. And at the same time, people started calling us saying, we knew you were struggling. We're struggling too. Or we know somebody else who's struggling. Can you help us? And I basically said, I'm not really qualified to help you, but I'm really sorry about your circumstance. And I certainly could share my story with you if it makes you feel, comforted, because it felt very lonely to us. And people really appreciated that. And it became a calling for me. So about 8 years ago, I decided to become certified as a parent coach, and I invested in 2-year-long programs that qualified me as as a certified parent coach, and I've been doing it ever since. And it really makes a difference to try and help people, because this is called parenting, not childing, and a lot of parents do struggle, especially with what happened with COVID, especially with social media, where kids are being impacted 24/7, not just what's going on between the four walls of the school, and they have access to information and things that we've never had before. Right. And parenting styles have differed, and so just having an empathetic ear, somebody who has some proven approaches, an accountability partner, somebody who can help them try out new things has been very rewarding for me, as I see parents really respond and put in the work themselves.
Yeah. Wow. That's really powerful. Wow. Thank you for sharing all that. That's interesting. Yeah. There's a lot of parents.
I'm sorry. We never hid from the fact that our daughter was challenged and we were challenged. That we could make some good out of the challenge. And so we feel fortunate that we've been able to do that.
May I ask what she's doing today?
Yeah, she works as a vet tech in Atlanta, and she lives with her boyfriend, and she's independent and seemingly happy. So it's not to say everything's perfect, but we were worried about her survival.
Right.
She was doing some stuff that wasn't, she was just trying to cope, but so we're just, we're pleased where things have evolved to, recognizing we still all have challenges and things to address day by day.
All right. So what does it really mean to be a successful parent, and how has that definition evolved for you? I think you've said some of this, but if you want to add anything more for you over time, how has it evolved?
Sure. Well, people define the word successful differently. To me, I always ask, what is it that you want from for your child? And most of them universally say, I just want them to be happy and independent. And they could be doing what they want. They just have to be happy and independent when they get older. They don't say they have to be a doctor, or they have to do this, or they have to do that. They generally just, they just generally have that common goal, but they don't always understand how to get there. And so what I help them do is understand that helping them get there is about purposeful connection and evolving awareness as opposed to perfection. And what that means is it's really about trying to connect with your kid so you have their trust and you're treating them with respect and you're supporting them to make their own decisions rather than controlling them themselves. And, generations ago, maybe, when I was a kid, the parent pretty much dictated and the kid fell in line. Things are a little different now where you have to connect with your kid. And that doesn't mean you treat them as an equal. You're the parent. But if you're not connecting with your child, if you're not attuned, that's the word, you're not going to understand what they're thinking, what they're doing, what's bothering them, where they need support, what's making them happy that you can fortify, because they won't be forthright about it. And so, and when you connect with your child, you're building their confidence and having meaningful alignment with your values and your child's needs. And you're parenting with clarity, self-awareness, and empathy rather than the other way around. Providing, again, that road or path for independence and happiness and whatever that means. And what I share with parents, and I ask them to help them get connected, is just trying to understand what their existing parenting style is. And I have this little chart, and I showed you it, I held it up before just to make sure we could see it, but there's this chart
Yep, a little
that
higher.
hopefully everybody can see. And it basically is a 2x2 square. And along the x-axis is attunement and unattunement, and along the y-axis is demanding and undemanding. And if you're demanding and attuned, you're authoritative. If you're demanding and unattuned, you're authoritarian. If you're attuned and undemanding, you're permissive. And if you're unattuned and undemanding, you're uninvolved. And when I work with parents, I ask them where they are on the spectrum. And most men are authoritarian, meaning they crack the whip, but don't really understand and connect well with their kids. And many moms are permissive. They want to be loving, they want to be caring, but they're not as demanding. And it's not always the case. It's not always the case. Sometimes the dad is the permissive one, but the idea is to try to move to an authoritative state in the best way you can. So you want to become attuned but demanding. People who are attuned and demanding are the most consistent parents, the ones who understand the kids, the ones who get feedback, and the ones who help. And those are the parents who are most effective in their parenting skills. And so in my practice at Parents Journey Coaching, I put into practice ways for parents to become more authoritative.
Great. That's awesome. I was going to ask you, what are some practical ways that parents can parent with purpose, especially during the chaos of, everyday life? Is it chaotic every day? Yes.
It can be. It can be, for sure.
It sure is. It seems like it gets more chaotic.
and it depends on everybody's situation too, because I work with a lot of parents who are, 2-parent households. I work with a lot of parents who are co-parenting. I work with a lot of single parents. Some parents aren't in the same location. So it's how do you manage through that? I even work with a lot of parents who are going through a divorce, and they want to find the right way to manage through that while they're without impacting their kids any worse than they would. So it depends upon that. And the practical ways, frankly, are using different tools and to try and act thoughtfully and take the long game and be patient when life gets a little bit messy. And And the way I look at it is when a kid is misbehaving or lashes out and doesn't do what you hope they would do in some way, shape, or form, a parent usually takes corrective action and lashes out. Could be name calling, could be a punishment, could be admonishment, could be silence. And what they're really not doing is, again, that attunement part. So it's not understanding, the iceberg analogy. If you see a child mouthing off at you, so to speak, which is unacceptable, you don't understand what's going on behind the scenes. Did they have a clash at school? Did they, are they feeling bad about the way they look? Did something happen on social media? Stuff that impacts them that you don't see. You don't see the how it emanates or how it presents itself, and understand what's really going on behind the scenes. And so what I suggest is a framework that I call the 4 A's. And the first A is assess. So it's just pausing to understand that iceberg. What's really happening? Why is your child's behavior the way it is, based upon the way that your child has acted before and the stimulus? And how can you just be able to address it and find out what's really going on? Because if you can't find out what's really going on, then you really can't help. Then it's addressing. So it's developing a plan to take corrective action for that behavior. And it's generally, if your child is able to come up with a solution rather than you telling them what to do, there's far more buy-in. And you just have to be able to ask the right questions to stimulate that kind of conversation. Then it's acting, supporting them to take that corrective action, whatever that may be. And then it's adjusting. And so it's seeing what worked and what didn't work given their experience. So I'll give an example. It's, your child failed the test, came home and failed the test, feels bad about it. Who knows the reason? You could yell at them and tell them that they're stupid, that they were lazy. They should do better next time. None of that really helps, right? It really doesn't help. So it's finding the way to not be judgmental and ask them, why do you think this occurred? And what are some things that, how do you feel about the fact that it occurred that way? Do you feel bad? Do you feel frustrated? Find the words. Do you feel embarrassed? Do you feel okay? How do you feel? And then what is it that we can do to address that? Let them come up with it and say, I didn't study enough. Okay, well, what are you going to do next time? And how can I support you to study more? Or if they don't come up with anything, ask to make a suggestion. One of the things parents don't do is ever ask their kids for permission. Can I make a recommendation and give you permission? And then maybe next time, given that level of support and engagement, they'll do better on that next test. That's the acting. I call it bumping into the world. It's retesting it, and then you adjust. And so what you're doing is encouraging intentionality even amid chaos, and you're observing, planning, trying, and revisiting. And some additional practical things that you can think about is building on past successes rather than overhauling things and trying to take corrective action, setting clear boundaries and expectations, strengthening communications and listening without judgment, which I mentioned before, and prioritizing your own self-awareness and focus amid distractions like screens and stress, meaning be present.
Oh, that's awesome. Love it. And the acronym again is assess?
I call it the 4A framework. It's my own framework: assess, address, act, and adjust.
Perfect. That's really great. And so can you share a moment when you felt like you were truly succeeding or failing as a parent, and what you learned from it, or somebody else's story with no names, of course? Either way.
Sure. Well, I'm not going to, I'll be consistent and share my own story.
Okay.
As I have. And my story is I was the authoritative parent. I was the authoritarian parent. I was the one who would be away all week. I'd come back home. Our kids were running the house instead of my wife, taking charge. She was more permissive. She was loving. She was doing her best. I didn't quite understand it because I wasn't around all week. And so, I'm a get her done kind of guy. I was a business guy who got stuff done. I'm not an excuse person. I'm not I'm probably not the most patient person. Even though I am in this coaching role, I have to be, and I am, but I'm not always. But
that's not what you gravitate to, I'm sure, in nature.
Yeah, but my struggle was, frankly, not connecting with my kids. Not being present enough, not being connected enough to get them to talk to me when I was available. And one of the things that really struck home was when we went to this a parents' weekend at this wilderness setting that she was in. They did a little act, and it was supposed to be kind of like a day in the life of your family to exemplify what it was like in their eyes. And my daughter had someone play me, and they acted, and my wife was hovering over my daughter like she was a helicopter parent, and I was on the side on a phone call. So that really moved me in a very negative way. I thought I was more involved in that, and that would be recognized, but clearly I wasn't. I was on a plane all the time, right? So my relationship with both my children is extraordinarily better because of the parent coaching, because of the attunement I do have now. I wish I had it sooner. I wish I could have learned sooner. I wish I could have applied it sooner. It would have been easier for everybody.
It sounds like my husband. He travels quite a bit. And I remember when we got married later in life, he says, well, do you want to have children? I'm like, well, if you want to. He goes, well, just know it'll be like you're a single parent. And I was like, being the teacher, I'm like, no. Because he would be traveling Monday through Friday too, and it would be the same thing. But what I'm hearing nowadays, and maybe you hear this, I don't know what your thoughts are on, like having weekly meetings, like for the men or the women who travel all day long, and the other parent is at home. What do you think about like weekly meetings to catch up, like a scheduled?
That's a great tool. I think what we found out and we realized was that, what I help people with sometimes is have weekly family meetings, because that helps get that way the logistics of the week aren't the primary conversation throughout the week. You can talk about other things and engage in other things when you're in the car, when you're at an event, when you're doing something, because most of everything else is like, when am I picking up from the ball field, and when am I doing this, and when are we eating dinner, and what. That's most of the conversation. So I try to facilitate, I try and facilitate those family meetings. But with my wife and I, we were just very different in terms of how we were on the parenting spectrum. And so we would direct the kids in different ways because we didn't agree. And so rather than getting aligned and compromising, or, maybe I wasn't right, but for the sake of being consistent and having a good front with our kids, conceding to my wife, because not every decision is life or death. Even if it seems like you'd prefer it one way or another, but you work together to be aligned so that you can communicate in a consistent voice. And kids are smart. They'll try, if you're not aligned, they'll twist. They'll twist the meeting, or they'll do what they, mom said I could do this and dad said I could do that, or, and so you really have to, that was a big lesson for me. And whenever we have an issue with our kids who are now adults, we sit them down, we talk together in advance. We agree on our approach. We agree on who's going to speak when we have an issue. And so there's no, it takes the power away from the kids to use that against you. And all kids want, other than being independent and happy, is a sense of control and understanding. If I have a sense, if I feel like I'm out of control and nobody understands me, that's when I'm going to lash out. That's when I'm going to misbehave. That's what I'm not going to do as well. And control doesn't mean they get to dictate. Control means I get to make decisions. So it could be telling your child, your responsibility is to clean your room. Right? You can make the choice. You can clean your room today or tomorrow. If you don't clean your room, because that's part of your responsibility, you don't do it by tomorrow, then you're going to get a consequence. And and you don't argue with them about it. You don't do any. You don't plead with them. You don't nag them. You let them make that choice, right? And so they're learning how to make choices and then experience the consequences. And the understanding is basically telling them you made a choice. I understand you made the choice, and I'm not going to judge you about it. You made that choice. You're experiencing the consequence. You don't shame them. You don't tell them they're a bad kid. So you're giving them a sense of understanding at the same time.
Cool. That's very powerful, everything you've said. So can you tell us about your parent coaching practice, Parents Journey Coaching, and what an engagement looks like to help parents succeed? If you want to briefly say what you would do.
Yeah. So it's called Parents Journey Coaching because it is a journey. Right. And you'll always be a parent once you're a parent. And, for me, it's working with if you work with me, you work with a certified strengths-based coach who partners with you, and we have discovery calls, structured planning, and meaningful action. And virtually all of them are by Zoom. They're weekly calls where we use that 4A framework, frankly, for me to help you put action into place and assess what you do. And frankly, allow you to implement some approaches that you buy into, that you try out with your, during your daily routine with your kids, and see how the power dynamic changes and how your influence over them changes the way they behave. And not only that, the way you feel about yourself. So many parents try so hard and spend so much energy that they really don't need to be spending to get better results and feel better about, how they work. So so that's generally how I work. And, one of the things I'm most prideful of is my Google reviews are really good.
Awesome.
An average of 4.9 out of 5. And the reason I get that is because I'm a business guy. I'm results oriented. So I try and do it in a good and empathetic way. As a business person, I was always somebody who cared about developing people. So this is just a way of doing it in a different realm. And, parenting's not easy. Everybody said if it were that easy, there'd be, a guidebook on it in terms of how to do it that everybody could refer to. And there's no manual. There's no manual. And so I've become a better person later on, a more empathetic person, even in my business life, having gone through this and having gone through some of the training and dealing with some of the parents who are struggling I'm somebody who's had a kid who struggled. I've gotten certified parent coaching. I've gotten certified as a parent coach. I've experienced the value of parent coaching because it really helped me. And I'm a guy. That's the last thing. So there aren't that many guys in this space. And just being able to understand how to connect with dads and how to connect with boys makes a big difference sometimes. So the mother will call and say, I'm calling on behalf of my husband. Yeah, I'm just doing some of the legwork because, right. And then,
Yeah.
and then often the husbands will be on board, or the partners, the co-parents will be on board, but sometimes they're not, because they have to be vulnerable. They have to be willing to make change. But then when I'm able to connect with them somehow, and see that it makes a difference, we're able to move forward. And so it's a, I don't do this to get rich, for sure. I'm doing it, being an entrepreneur in a core business thing is a way to make more money. But this is certainly as satisfying as anything I've ever done. Yeah,
I bet. I know the way they can schedule a chat with you is to go to your website, right? parentsjourneycoaching.net.
Yep. There's a link to schedule a call. Again, I'm not trying to be a hard salesperson here. If there are other resources I can provide to you, or just be an ear, happy to be an ear. If I can help you, I'm glad to help you. There's a link to schedule some time to talk with me, and I learned something and can add value with every conversation, whether I end up coaching you or not.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Andy. That was terrific. I know parents are always probably looking to try to get some help, and some look at, maybe their religious institution like a church or whatever, but this is definitely another means and ways to do it, folks. And I appreciate you taking time to come on our show and share this with everybody and being so transparent with everything. You did a terrific job.
Thank you for having me, and I appreciate everything you do for the community through your work efforts too.
Well, thank you very much. All right, everybody. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye for now. Thanks for tuning in to Smart Parents Successful Students podcast. If you found today's episode insightful, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and check out our YouTube channel for even more tips to help your student thrive. Until next time, keep guiding your children towards success.